Hello everybody, Mr. Tom here and welcome back to reading. Last week we read chapters 1 and 2 of Billy Saves the Day, and today we'll be reading chapters 3 and 4. The comment section will be open. I want to hear your thoughts on each of the chapters that I read today, and I will give you my own thoughts at the end of this video when I read both of them. So I'll jump into chapter 3 now, which is called Who Will Be Keymaster? Okay, Year 5, you should have read the script for homework last night. Can I have a show of hands from those who want to play the Keymaster? Miss Tompkins looked at the forest of arms. Well, that's encouraging. She swept her gaze around the classroom. And I see we have a number of girls wanting to play the role. Please, miss, Julie held up her hand. Yes, Julie? It doesn't say the Keymaster has to be a boy. You're quite right. But with so many of you wanting the part, we'll have to hold auditions. Aunt and Tom leant in. They took no notice of Billy, who just sat staring into space. She can't be serious. Tom had trouble keeping his voice to a whisper. Half the class wants to be Keymaster. Just say no, girls. His eyes narrowed while he stared in Julie's direction. Girls ought to audition. Julie's right. Aunt felt so confident that he would get the part that he didn't mind. He had even started learning the words. Aunt noticed that Billy had said nothing. Hey, what's wrong with you, mate? Billy made his hands into fists and crossed his arms over his chest. I'll build scenery. His mumble sounded difficult to understand. Dejected, he dropped his head. Tom and Aunt exchanged glances. What? They spoke together. To get the attention of the class, Miss Tompkins rapped her knuckles on her desk. For the audition, I want each hopeful to perform the Keymaster part from scene 1. I will read the other parts, and the remainder of the class can provide the chorus. So use the rest of this lesson in break time to practice. Scattered around the playground, Year 5 students moved away from everyone else so that they could practice their lines. The curious, mostly juniors, followed them around, mimicking what they did and said, much to the annoyance of the older children. The sound of the end of break bell cleared everybody up from the playground as they headed back to class, and for those about to audition, it meant their time was coming, and quickly. The nerves kicked in. Hey, Aunt, you'll storm it, someone from his class shouted. Aunt turned away. It was one thing to feel confident, but something else to actually stand up and act out a part. His stomach made a gurgling sound. He kept walking, not wanting to talk to anyone right now. While Year 5 had gone to break, Miss had rearranged the classroom, moving the desks and chairs to form a stage area with setting. Can I have the first person who wants to audition for the Keymaster? Miss pointed to the stage. Come up here, please. The class fell silent as each person looked at someone else, or the floor, or their script, hoping Miss wouldn't choose them first. Well, Julie, it looks like you'll go first. But, Miss, I didn't put my hand up, Julie protested. I know, but since you seemed so keen to play the Keymaster earlier, I thought, oh, okay. Julie came up and stood in the space that Miss Tompkins had created for the stage. All eyes were fixed on her. She coughed. Just a clearing of the throat sort of cough, but not enough to show how anxious she felt. Her shaking legs told a different story. Now, this is your audience, Miss motioned to the rest of the class seated in a semicircle. They needed to hear and see what you're doing. Hold your script up, but not so much that it covers your face. When you feel ready, please begin. Julie shifted her weight from foot to foot before looking at her script, and then out at the rows of classmates. Good morning, class, she squeaked. Her words didn't reach the front row. Never mind the whole class. Miss Tompkins raised her hand to her ear to help her hear. Julie, you'll never fill the assembly hall like that. Draw your breath in. Take it right down here. Miss pointed to her stomach. Then project your voice nice and loud. Miss did so as she spoke. "Good morning, class!" Julie's shout echoed around the room, and several of the front row pupils clapped their hands to their ears. Julie looked to Miss. "Better," Miss Tompkins said, nodding. "But no shouting. You just need to project." Julie continued reading. "I'm your supply teacher for today." She rubbed her hands as she spoke, just as the script instructed. "Right, Battle of Hastings," she exclaimed. Miss raised her hand, signaling for Julie to stop. Now, that sounded a lot better. We'll pretend you've read the rest of the speech. Turn over the page, where it says, 'I can go back in time anywhere.' You can sing that line for me, please." Miss closed her eyes to help her concentrate while she listened to Julie. Julie broke out into what she thought was a song, but her throat, tight with fear, made her sound more like a violin getting played by an angry cat. She squeaked and squeaked, so much that Miss Tompkins jumped up and snatched the script from her hand. Julie, that's enough. Thank you. Now take a seat, please." Julie slunk off stage, muttering while she walked. There was no need for that. I didn't say I could sing," she muttered. "Who's next?" Miss stood and pointed to Khaled. "Will you audition?" He looked around to check who Miss Tompkins pointed at. "Not for Keymaster, miss." Khaled had changed his mind. Although he liked singing, he thought the part had too many spoken words to learn. "So who will?" Miss looked along the rows of seated students. Aunt sat smiling back at her. "Come on then, Aunt." She waved him up onto stage. Ant's stomach flipped. He wanted this, but he still felt nervous. In front of the class. He stood as tall as he could with his hands behind him. He pushed his chest out and pulled his shoulders back. He wanted to make a good first impression. "Good morning, class." Ant looked toward Miss, who nodded her approval. "I'm your supply teacher for today." He rubbed his hands like the script said, although he didn't have a script with him. "Right, Battle of Hastings. That was excellent," Miss said. "However, I want to hear you sing now. Anthony, if you turn over the page and start where it says, I can go back in time." She stopped herself and cocked her head, and her eyebrows met in the middle. "Where's your script?" "I've learned the lines off by heart, miss." Ant checked around the room for his classmates' reactions. His smugness nearly stopped him from singing. He found out that you cannot grin and sing at the same time. Then, putting on a straight face, he sang the whole of the verse. Miss clapped her hands. "Excellent, Anthony. You've a natural talent." All the class applauded, except Billy. In true theater style, Ant bent at the waist and took a bow, making a full dramatic sweep of his hand like some Shakespearean actor, while urging his classmates to continue clapping. "That will do. Thank you, Anthony. So who else have we?" I counted 15 hopefuls before break. Miss walked across the stage area, looking at the rows of faces. No one raised their hand. "What happened to all my keymasters?" "Tom, your hand went up earlier." Miss held his gaze. "It's Ant, miss. He did such a great audition." Tom dropped his eyes. "Well, unless you try, you'll never know. And you, Susanna, your project at the end of the last term proved a great success." Miss Tompkins had tried to encourage more students. "I've decided to audition for one of the girl parts. I'm not sure about singing by myself." Susanna looked to Julie and mouthed. "What do you think?" Julie shrugged. "Well, if you're sure." Miss sounded disappointed. She cast her eyes over to the rest of the people in the rows. Then she noticed Billy, despite the fact he had slipped down in his seat, trying to make himself invisible. "Come on, Billy." Miss Tompkins had wanted him all along as keymaster, though she could not say so. "Do I have to, miss?" Billy stared at the floor, trying to avoid looking at her directly. "No, you don't have to, but I think you should. At least give it a go. Just read a few lines and see how you get on." "But miss, I can't sing for toffee." I guess it means for nothing. Not sat like that, you can't. Billy, come up here and bring your script. Miss Tompkins beckoned to him. Billy pulled himself into an up-straight position before standing. Okay, miss. The chair legs screeched in protest when he shoved his seat backwards. Each stride towards the stage took him an age. A while. Slowly, reluctantly, he made his way forward. What do you want me to do? He knew really, but tried anything to delay the moment. Hurry up, it'll be lunchtime soon, Miss sounded impatient. I can't, miss. I don't mind. He tried to head back to his seat. No, Billy, now. He stopped and held his script so close to his face that no one could see him, and then read as fast as he could. The garbled words barely made it out of his mouth. He turned to head back to his seat. You've not sung yet, Miss called him back. 'Cause I can't sing, miss. He looked at her, hoping she might change her mind. Just one verse, the 3 lines from over the page. Miss pointed to the script. Everyone will sing with you, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Miss led the singing. I can go back in time anywhere. She raised her hand to stop the racket they all made. Come on, class, there's a lot of room for improvement. Right, again. She raised her arms like an orchestra conductor. And all together now. I can go back in time anywhere. Keep going. I have the keys to history. And finally, she looked at the class over her glasses. Everyone knew they had to try harder. Come with me back in time. I'll take you there. See, you can do it. She gave the class a clap. Right, Billy, your turn. Oh, miss. Billy rubbed his hand across his eyes while he tried to think of a reason that he shouldn't. Miss tapped her foot to the beat of the tune and pointed at Billy to begin. I can go back in time anywhere. I have the keys to history. Come with me back in time. I'll take you there. Billy's singing sounded more like the croaking of a terrified frog. Finished, he stood without moving, hoping he had done enough to end this nightmare. Well, that didn't seem so bad. You won't be in the next boy band, but that's not why we're here. Miss looked at him, disappointed, and agreed that he wasn't right for the part, but she knew that he could do better. That's the end of chapter 3. I will give you my thoughts of that chapter as soon as we finish chapter 4, which is right now, which is rehearsals. The stage in the school hall had been transformed into a modern-day classroom for the opening scene of the Keymaster play. But, as in all theater productions, it came from an illusion like a magic trick. From where the audience sat, it looked like a classroom, but in reality, the scene builders had made it from several large painted canvases hung from the overhead gallery. Plus, genuine props like desks and chairs placed in rows around the stage. To build a set on stage takes a lot of time to design, paint, and sort out of the props. Miss Tompkins had organized the stage crew from those class members not acting. And since Billy didn't want a part into play, he became one of her key helpers. Stage crew, Miss called out. She could hear someone whistling. Can I have your attention? The whistling continued. Who's that? Miss could not see Billy, as he was working off to one side of the stage with a broad brush and pot of cream-colored paint, applying it to the several screens. It's Billy, miss, Khaled offered. Khaled didn't get a part in the play, either, and had to decide to do scenery instead. He ran off to fetch Billy. Oi, Field! Miss wants you. He and Billy ambled back to where the rest of the crew waited. Nice of you to join us. Mrs. Sarcasm got lost on Billy. Sorry, miss, That will do, Billy. I just need to tell you all of that. As from today, we will no longer have this stage to ourselves. The rehearsals are starting. It means that you need to stay quiet and especially no whistling. She looked right at Billy, pretending to be cross. In actual fact, she felt pleased that Billy had gotten back to being his old self. He had seemed so gloom ever since she had announced the end-of-the-year performance. Actors need to hear each other's lines, she said, so they know so they know when to say theirs. Is that understood? Yes, miss, they spoke as a group. Billy stood next to Khaled and brought his hand up to cover his mouth. I wonder how Ant's doing as Keymaster. We'll find out soon enough, Khaled pointed out towards the main door into the hall as the rest of Year 5 trooped in. Actors not only have to learn their lines and songs, but they also need to know when to say them, and where to stand while they say them. Stage rehearsals are necessary for practicing positions, actions, and building confidence, Miss Tompkins explained. With the whole of Year 5 on stage, she had a large crowd of children gathered around her. Miss Tompkins had trouble making herself heard. Stage crew, please keep the noise down, and Billy, can you fetch me a piece of chalk? Her shout reached his ears. Billy disappeared and looked for some chalk. Miss Tompkins raised her voice. What I'm going to say next is vital. Listen carefully, so that we all move in the correct direction when told to. We need to make sure we know our left from our right. Miss Tompkins held up each of her arms in turn as she spoke. As she peered over her glasses, she didn't feel so sure that this would turn out as easy as it had sounded. And in particular, stage left and stage right, she added. Miss Tompkins paused to gather her thoughts. Okay, can everyone, including the stage crew, make a line across the front of the stage, facing the audience? She stood back and watched 29 children shuffle about until, eventually, they had sorted themselves out. It's worse than hurting cats, she thought. Now, raise your right. That's your right arm. Miss Tompkins had repeated herself so that no confusion would remain. And hold it there. She scanned the line and noticed some hesitation. Tom, since when has your left become your right? I tripped up there. Because I'm left-handed, miss, and I get confused. Quickly, he switched arms. How am I supposed to know? Miss continued. In the theater, knowing your left from your right is particularly useful when taking directions, and for when I say stage left or stage right. Now put your arms down and turn to your right. A shuffle of feet followed. You are now facing stage right, okay? The yes, miss sounded unclear. Miss Tompkins put her hand to her ear. I didn't hear that. She moved her glasses down her nose and stared. Yes, miss, came from all the children at once. That's better. Now don't forget it. I found some, miss. Billy reappeared, waving a stick of white chalk above his head. Thank you, Billy. Miss looked at the assembled children. We need to work out where the Keymaster and others will stand, and which way they will walk on and off stage. That way, no one will crash into each other. Now, anyone in the chorus, please move to the back of the stage toward the left-hand side. Khaled put up his hand. Yes, Khaled? Does that include the stage crew, miss? Yes, I need to see how much room you lot take up. Miss Tompkins looked about for Billy. Now, Billy, grab your chalk and draw a line around the group and write on it, chorus. C-H-O-R-U-S. She spelled it out. The rest of rehearsal continued in much the same way until everyone knew his or her positions and which way they would come on and off stage. That's it for today. You can go home now. Miss Tompkins waved the children away. Billy, can you stay a minute? She looked him straight in the eye. You have been so useful. Would you mind coming to all the after-school rehearsals, if your parents feel okay with that? I'll ask, miss. His eyes widened. And I'll let you know tomorrow. Billy felt so pleased that she had asked him that he skipped across the stage to catch up with Tom and Ant. Guess what? Billy slapped his mates on the back. Miss had asked me to stay after school to help out with the rehearsals. Looks like you can't get away from me. Tom and Ant grinned back at him. A bit like a bad smell. And Ant held his nose. Yeah, very amusing. Billy kept walking. Billy's mom agreed to Billy staying for rehearsals, and as the weeks went by, he became familiar with all aspects of the play. He needed to, as Miss Tompkins had him doing the sound effects, organizing props, and redrawing the marks where the performance stood, and all of those things that make a play run smoothly. As Billy's classmates spoke their words or sang, Billy repeated them in his head. He watched their entrances and exits on stage and noted the action cues. He needed to make sure the right sound effect came at the correct time. Being at all the rehearsals, the words and songs just sort of climbed into his head without him having to think about them. Often, he knew them better than the person saying them. He began to enjoy being part of the production. And that is the end of Chapter 4. So I guess this is sort of coming together when you look at the name of the story. Billy saves the day. I feel like something's going to happen in the play, something bad's going to happen during the play, like towards the end, and Billy, as we see at the end of this chapter, he's starting to get more comfortable and learn about the play, and he's starting to apparently know lines better than the people saying them, so something will happen, and he'll come and save the whole thing, and then it's going to end up being fine, I think. Chapter 4 was a little shorter, and halfway in, I was like, what's this chapter trying to say? But we see that it's now trying to show how comfortable Billy got at the end. And now he's starting to enjoy it in his own way. In Chapter 3 showed how scared Billy was, and a lot of his classmates were, but it seems like they're all warming up now. Billy's doing pretty good, and this story's building up for Billy to save the play in some manner when it goes up. So, for the next time, we're going to read Chapter 5, Ant Tries to Fly. I wonder what that's going to be. And Chapter 6 is called No Keymaster. Uh-oh. So I guess something happens to Ant. So, next week, we'll read those 2 chapters and find out what happens to Ant. So, for now, I hope you enjoyed the reading. I look forward to reading the next chapters next week, and I hope everyone stays safe and healthy, and look forward to it. Have a nice day.